Very green.
Good evening.
Yep.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum here.
Yeah.
First item on the agenda, Sarah, is we have minutes from the July Planning Board meeting.
Yes.
And they were reviewed by the Planning Board. Any comments from any of the members on the minutes?
Can't vote on
You can vote. Can I have a motion to, can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Second. All in favor?
it. Aye.
So those minutes are approved. And everybody's up to date with their taxes for this evening's meeting?
Yes.
Okay, then the order of the items that we'll be taking up this evening are, first will be 2019-16 Monica Richmond, 27 North Buckout Street. Second will be 2019-13 Terry Cohen, Tulin, 107 Harriman Road. And third will be 2019-18 Judd and Catherine Arscar, 65 North Broadway. So with that, we'll begin. First item again is 2019-16 Monica Richmond, 27 North Buckout Street. Good evening, Bob. I think, you know what?
Okay.
There was only one issue that was outstanding as of the last meeting, and that was whether there was anything in the approval by the planning board on the original site plan that would not permit any changes to the exterior.
We found the, what's it called, the
Offering plan.
Offering.
the offering.
Don't tell myself.
Just hold on to the
We
mic.
found the offering plan
I reviewed it.
and got it to you guys, and
And I think, and Ed, you reviewed the offering plan. There was
The offering
nothing
plan only requires board approval from
from the board of,
River House.
okay, the condominium board.
and I did find the survey that the planning board approved, and that's in the later update from the.
We have that too.
Yeah.
So I think there were no other issues. I mean, are there any other comments from any of the board members? Any comments from anyone in the public on the matter? No? I think, Mary Ann, then you have a resolution on this?
Whereas in July 2019, Monica Richmond applied for site development plan approval to enclose an existing deck on the northwest corner of Unit 12 of the multifamily building at 27 North Buckout Street, River House, which is located in the View Preservation District. The application included a letter from the president of the River House Condominium Board stating that the board approved her application to enclose the deck. Han Engineering reviewed the plans, and in a memorandum dated July 1st, 2019, identified several issues, all of which were addressed in a subsequent submission. The Planning Board held a public hearing on the application on July 3rd and August 7th. The proposed improvements would not impact the view of the Hudson River from neighboring properties. It's type 2 action under SEQA and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled River House at Irvington, prepared by R. Riley Architect, sheets 1 through 9, last dated 7/27. This approval is not a substitute for a building permit. Construction may not commence until the building inspector issues a building permit.
Any comments from any of the members of the board?
You want to put that in the future?
No? We can have a,
Signatures?
yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Ms. Richmond. Am I in the, I don't think I'm in the, am I in the preservation, Bob, am I in that?
I'm sorry.
You have to speak into the microphone, you have to call the meeting.
There was no, there was.
Could you identify yourself
Hi,
again?
Monica Richmond, 27 North Buckout. Am I in the view preservation or?
Everything
Yes.
went to Broadway.
Oh,
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thanks, baby. Take one of those too.
Give her one.
Gift one.
Oh, yeah.
Parked up that?
Next item is 2019-13 Terry Cohen, 20107 Harriman Road.
I'll give you all of
So get driving. Find out what the weather's like.
Is this fun?
It's raining everywhere.
Huh?
It's
It is?
raining. I don't know, I'll decide.
How long?
Aldada from Hudson Engineering, representing 107 Harriman. Last we were in front of the board, we had shown, I mean, the fence is exactly as shown here. The only differences we've made is we've revised the,
Oh, one's for you, okay. That's good. I'll put it in the folder and duplicate it for you. What's that? We have one, yeah.
That's it.
Thanks.
the changes since the last time the board saw the plan was we've revised the patio to a wood deck. to allow water to pass underneath as it's in the flood zone. We've added a curtain drain as the owners complained about, I guess, the yard being really wet after heavier rainstorms and remaining so. So we're proposing the curtain drain to kind of hopefully ease that to an extent, any surface water that just sits on the surface and pond, to be directed towards the curtain drain that then goes to a catch basin. And then the deer fencing has been reduced to a 6-foot fence compared to the 8-foot fence that was originally proposed.
Any comments from any board members?
Is the stockade fence facing Harriman there now, or is it proposed?
It's proposed.
And how tall is that?
I believe it's 6 feet as well.
You believe, or you know, or you
I'll
don't?
confirm with the detail.
It said 6 feet.
6 feet?
Well,
It said 6 feet on the site plan.
Oh, I
haven't
see
the
that,
detail.
okay.
But my question is it a stockade fence? I thought I read somewhere in either your memo that it hadn't been determined by the owners what type of fence it was going to be.
Well, it doesn't say, it's just a
It's a
gate
stockade.
through a stockade.
Yeah.
It doesn't say the fence is stockade.
It does say stockade fence in
Oh,
this
okay.
corner, sorry.
So is it going to be a stockade?
It's stockade only along the front. The rest of it's deer fence along the rest of the perimeter.
Okay.
Anybody have a problem with a stockade fence?
Yeah, I mean, if you, my concern is that if you drive up and down Harriman Road, there isn't a single fence on Harriman Road. It's all actually stone walls along.
They're gonna have a tough time with ARB with that.
Yeah. So I think you may want to discuss that with your client about what.
Is there a fence that would be acceptable?
You know, it's gonna be the ARB's final decision, but I can just tell you, stockade fence is really not a front yard fence. That's really more a rear yard fence. And I think you're gonna have to do something a lot more decorative and maybe that blends in. I think there were also a number of questions raised by our landscape architect. in
The
terms
landscaping
of-
plan.
Yeah, it looked like you were clear cutting the entire lot.
It hadn't been updated to when the trees were added on there. So we have to take into account the trees that are marked on the survey, and I believe there's one that the surveyor had missed. So we have to update the plan and revise the landscaping accordingly. That we're working on.
Because I think it didn't show that any of the trees were being saved,
Mhm.
and or it didn't show any tree protection around a number of those trees. And another comment I had is on the trench drain. I mean, you're showing a silt fence within 2 feet of either side of the trench drain. The other thing is the silt fence is running parallel to the to the topography. It really should be perpendicular to it. I think you're wasting a lot of silt fence there that's not going to be of any use. And so you really got to take a look at that and revise the silt fence plan accordingly. All right?
But as far as layout, does the planning board have any issues with the layout aside from the fence, if you will? Is there an issue with the patio or the?
Yeah, I have a question. There's a raised patio, so there's no real taking of floodplain.
Right.
Yes, there is a taking, or no, there is. You're nodding, I don't know.
That is correct, I said.
Oh, okay.
Right. I think we would have an issue if there were a structure that were being.
Well, then you have to go
enclosed
through a
in the
whole
floodplain.
calculation.
Right.
Yeah, you're still gonna have a small, how you can defend it's not a wetland, but you're putting a drain to dry the backyard out. I want you to seriously think about that and call me tomorrow morning.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I have an issue with that stockade fence.
Any other comments from any of the board members?
I agree, I don't like the fence either. All of Harriman Road are stone
No
walls.
fences on road.
So,
Would you prefer a wall?
Well, there already is a partial wall out there.
In the
Yeah.
corner.
Yeah, and, and there are a number of trees out there too that really figure out how you're handling all of that in terms of what the additional landscaping is that's being added. I think, if I understand correctly, it was actually not a landscape architect who did the landscape plan, but it was more of a.
He works in a nursery, yes, he has, yep.
Yeah, I think you really want to consider looking into getting a landscape architect involved and coming up with a plan that makes sense. Right. Any other comments? Yes. Identify yourself.
when I get to the mic. Thanks.
Yes, I'm Mark Gilliland, 85 Harriman. So the big issue for everyone in the neighborhood, of course, at least who I've talked to, is that they just don't want that side yard on Sycamore looking like, Stalag 13. So it's very important that a proper landscaping plan be presented. And one of my questions here is, since it's not attached to any of this material right now, which board is supposed to be approving the landscape plan for the deer fence?
Well, wait a minute, the landscape plan for the deer fence, you're asking, there's the landscape plan, then there's the fence plan.
Right, I'm assuming the fence will be approved, and if so, the fence will need landscaping in order to prevent it from looking like a not like a stockade, but like a prison yard.
Right, well, I think our landscape architect made some comments about that too. I think she said specifically about using more native plants within the yard, and I think that they show a number of plants that would be around the stockade, not the stockade fence.
Yeah. Well, if you've been to the site, which I know you have been, there's a couple of issues. There are a few existing things out here, shrubs, right along in this,
Sycamore.
along Sycamore, in the area of the transformer. There's a row of stuff. It's not really showing on here, and they're in pretty bad shape at this point in terms of screening. And plus, they're quite a distance from the proposed fence line itself. The other thing, just if anyone's, I just want to support you in saying they should have someone like a landscape architect looking, because this whole yard is like a mat of roots and rock. It's a very difficult situation to plant into, and it's going to have, well, it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of a plan you can come up with for that.
Well, as I said, I think they should have a landscape architect look at it, because they were showing a planting plan that was all over the yard, but our landscape architect raised some questions about it too.
Yeah.
So,
Again, the focus is mainly on this flank here. This is pretty much hidden because of the way the property steps up next to it. So it's really this line here, and I think if seeing the site, which I know some of the board has seen, the existing street side landscape is pretty in pretty poor condition right now.
I think also, Harriman Road is the main road there too. I think
Right.
that really has to be addressed too properly in terms of the landscaping along there and what's going to be done, because there are a number of trees already out there, some evergreens that seem to have been eaten by
Yeah, the
deer.
deer, they're in bad shape, yeah.
And there's, as I said, there's a partial stone wall out there too. So how are all these items going to be handled with the landscaping plan?
Do you have any thoughts on the stockade fence in addition to the
I
sycamore?
think the stockade fence just, I mean, I'd rather, as a neighbor, I'd almost rather see it be deer fence and just keep it, you know, one thing. I don't think the house really lends itself to any kind of, you can't put a picket fence there, you couldn't put, you know, it's not really a, well, my take is it's gonna, whatever, if you create a second fence style, it's gonna look very odd. That was my take on it. But it's not my, you know, it's not my decision.
I think the shrubs on Sycamore were planted originally when Highgate, that whole area, Dogwood and Sycamore, when Highgate was being built. And that house was a model house for them, so they wanted to make it look pretty right away. And now it's growing.
Well, some of them are, I mean, as Pat pointed out, the ones along this stone wall up here,
Along
basically, along Harriman, are basically, you know, they're nude up to about 5 feet. Because the deer just browsed on. But over here, I'm pretty sure the junipers over there, they're just like old, you know, massive junipers that are basically half, you know, they're half eaten away, not by deer, but just by life. You know.
Their lifespan is over.
Well, I think that was, the issue was more too that when we looked at the landscape plan that was supplied, it didn't really address what's there now and how what's there now is going to be handled in terms of new landscape plans. So I think the need really to get a landscape architect involved that will look at what's there now, what can be saved, what has to go, and then make up a plan that really makes sense for the site and also addresses the concerns. I mean, it's a very visible lot. It's right on the corner of two roads. Obviously, Harriman is a main road
Well, Sycamore's
that's used,
pretty
and
heavy
Sycamore
traffic.
too,
Yeah.
coming out of the heights. So.
Could I just point out one other thing,
Yes.
and then I'll give up the mic? Thank you for letting me take the time. I'm also kind of concerned about this zone right in here. You don't really think about it. The property line's set in quite far. What's the scale? So the property line is set in there, maybe 15 to 20 feet. This is like a no man's land right there. And they won't, normally they wouldn't be planting into that unless they have approval to plant outside their property line.
Which we're going to say, the other issue there is too, the sight lines. I mean, there is a stop sign coming west on.
There's a stop sign coming down and a
West
stop
on Harriman.
sign this
Right,
way.
right, but there isn't a stop sign coming east on Harriman.
That's right,
It was, and then it was taken away.
yeah,
Right,
because
so now there's through
There's
traffic.
too much
So I
problems.
think that we just have to make sure too that there are adequate sight lines at
Yeah.
that intersection.
anyways, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
And that, when he was pointing to the no man's land at the corner of Sycamore and Harriman, is that village property or village right away?
So you need village permission to do anything out there?
Yes, you have to leave a 30 foot from the corner both ways as a view line also.
Okay.
I think we're 18 inches.
Does the village maintain that and cut it, you know?
Only if it gets out of control.
Any other comments, questions? No.
Thank you.
I think that's it on that item. I guess you're staying right where you are, right? Next item is 2019-18, Judd and Catherine Parkser, 65 North Broadway.
Again, Alberto from Hudson Engineering. The owners are trying to get a more level, flat backyard. So we're proposing grading out from roughly the existing patio here back to 30 feet from the rear property line. The main issue, of course, is there's an aqueduct buffer on the property. It's 50 feet, per I believe the subdivision. They're looking to try to get it revised by zoning board to a 30-foot buffer.
Okay. I mean, I was out there and I scaled this off too. And right now, from the existing wood deck back to the 50-foot buffer line is 60 feet. And then what they're asking for is another 20 feet, so 80 feet of regrading the backyard. Number one is how much cut and fill is going to be done in this backyard, because I mean you're creating on the south end, you're creating 2 4-foot walls, so you have like 8-foot elevation here. Let me back up. Right now, I calculate you have a 12.5% grade in that backyard. Right, which is a lot. And now you're gonna raise it up and try and fill all this in. And my question is, why do you need to go beyond the 50-foot buffer? You're gonna get 60 feet of flat backyard. Why do you need 80 feet? Why does your applicant need 80 feet of backyard?
That's their preference. That's why they're trying to go in front of zoning board.
Well, okay, then if that's the case, then what they need to do for this board, before we're gonna approve anything, or send it on to the ZBA, is to go into the zoning ordinance. There are 5 comments in there, 5 requirements in there as to a variance, as to why the variance is needed. All right, and I think those have to be addressed by you and your client and come back to us with answers to those questions before we will make a determination as to whether
Gotcha.
you should go on to the ZBA.
And in this,
Exactly. Because I don't see, I mean, the house next door is still under construction. I saw there's a stone wall being built in the backyard. I assume that stone wall is 50 feet from the buffer? It meets the buffer requirements. You haven't measured it?
It appears from the aqueduct to be there. I haven't checked it yet.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, can I just say one
Yeah.
thing?
Yes, I don't.
In the microphone.
Just so it's clear, the 5 factors for the zoning board are for the zoning board to decide.
Right.
But you guys have your full panoply of site plan reasons you might recommend against it, that aren't bound by that, so.
Yeah, beyond that, correct. But I
Right,
think there
I'm
are-
just saying that we want the record to show that this board is taking the zoning, the
I
zoning
think he
board's.
was merely pointing it out that
No, I know, yeah, no, he said come back with those, but it's fair to know that, but you guys can decide that it's inappropriate for reasons other than
Beyond,
those.
right.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay. Thanks. And before I turn it over to the other members of the planning board, this 15-foot drainage easement, does it end at the proposed wall, or does it continue across your
it
property?
continues to this point here, just around the planter, I believe.
Well, oh, you have,
We found the subdivision plot. We have lot 3.
drainage easement. So is there like a field drain?
There's a manhole
on the
here.
property?
There's a manhole here.
There's a manhole
I believe a
there?
pipe runs through.
There's Coltex and the overflow goes to the manhole.
There are Coltex in that backyard, and then the overflow goes to that easement. Okay. So that has to be maintained when you start building these walls.
Typically, you're not allowed to grade over it.
The other thing is, how are you going to, you're building walls right up against somebody else's property? How
On the property line.
On the property line? Yeah, how are you, do you have permission from the adjoining property owner?
They've had discussions with that owner, and I believe because they're putting walls on their side, there's a chance that that area is being filled, and that wall may not be required, or may not be as high, but it ends up being decided by how high grade is at that point come into construction.
All right, well, I guess we'll need something, either
Some sort of letter or
resolution of that
something.
issue, or something in writing that says that they have the permission to do the work on the other side. And I think also, our landscape architect raised it too, but I also noticed there is a double 24-inch tree just to the, what would be the southwest corner of the house.
This corner here.
Yeah, there are two 24-inch trees there. And it looks like the proposed wall is within about 5 feet
Yeah.
of that tree, of those trees.
We can try to grade that out. The reality is the wall at that point anyways is not going to be very high, so I wouldn't assume the foundation would be very deep either.
But I think you're gonna, I think maybe you ought to consider
Grading
relocating
it
the
out.
wall away from those trees. And I think we also, what she is asking for too is a survey of all the trees on the site and their condition.
Okay,
Because
from
I-
arborist, yep.
Yeah, because I think also on the north property line, there are a number of trees along the north property line that are gonna be impacted by the fill.
Yeah.
And that could have major impact on the feeder roots of those trees. All right, and also it looked like, I don't know, there were 4 holes dug along the aqueduct property line there, but between those 2 trees.
If you look
I
at the
noticed-
survey, if you look at the survey,
Were there trees?
there were trees there.
There were trees there.
That's what it looks like in the survey, because they're not shown on the site plan, they're shown on the survey.
So were they
But they,
removed with a permit from
No, I
the
couldn't
tree
speak to.
commission? Even on the survey, it didn't show, it showed,
it shows trees right against the.
yeah, there are 2 trees, there are 2 large trees out there, but if you go out there too, there are 4 holes, I would say about 3 feet across, that are freshly dug.
Horizontally or,
That way.
okay.
Yeah, and so the question is, were there trees removed, were there shrubs removed, were there borings done there or something? What happened
Not to
there?
my knowledge. I'll have to ask the owner about that.
Okay. And one last comment, I think, too, again, the silt fence is right up against the walls, and the silt fence should not be your limit of construction. I mean, your silt fence is your silt fence. And again, it's not, yeah, it's not in the right location. You got to take a look at that. It should be running perpendicular to the slope, not parallel to.
Take a look and review those.
You want it perpendicular to the
To the
line of
direction
flow.
of flow, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of that silt fence is superfluous. It's, you know, if you got to put it in the right location so that it'll do something.
Plus, I really don't like the wall on the property line and
I mean, there is a property, a wall and property line on this side as well from the neighbor.
how many cubic feet of fill are you bringing in?
We'll have to calculate that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to calculate
And
that.
I think it was
out.
getting an idea of, yeah.
Is there any, I didn't look that close, is there any trees in that fill area that are gonna die because the roots are filled over?
Everything along the northern side.
There's a whole row of trees.
So they're as good as dead.
Pretty much.
So I think that there are a lot of
That's an
issues.
issue.
Any other questions, comments?
Just if you're too close to your neighbor and they say, yes, it's fine with us, I would like to have that in writing.
Okay. And again, the main thing is what their grade looks like come the end of
Right.
construction, because that will impact whether that wall's needed or not.
How much space is there to get the trucks, I didn't scale it off, I see you have a temporary, to get the trucks.
I
from
believe
the
it's
fill?
at least 12 feet. I'll confirm, but I believe there's at least 12 feet down this side.
So that row of evergreens there, trees, they are right on the property line? Do you know who, are they,
15 feet.
are they the owners, the applicants, or are they the next door neighbor's trees?
Based on where the center is taken, I'm assuming it's somewhere in between.
So
Because
the
some of them
trucks,
are over
the
the
trucks are
property
gonna be
line, some
rolling over the
Yeah,
roofs of all those trees.
Yeah, they're gonna have to be protected too.
A lot of trucks if you have a lot of cubic feet. Looks
Yeah.
like a lot.
And if it's the neighbor's property, you need their permission for that too,
Absolutely.
in writing.
Acknowledging that their trees may die,
Which becomes a landscaping garden anyways.
which we wouldn't allow anyway, so.
And I think when you finally figure it out, I think you need at least one cross-section through the walls on the south side of the property. You have two walls there, the wall that's right up against the property line, and then the second wall.
How the neighbor would view it.
Yes.
And then your coverage is right there. So these walls pushing right over.
Mhm. Which they'd also be looking for a variance for, should it get to that point.
I have the old plan, I'll give it to you. The only thing that wasn't done on the old plan was the holding tank. They brought the sewer out the front from the file. You're welcome to have this.
Thank you. I guess I might as well ask if they go back and they revise it so it's beyond the 50-foot buffer. So at this point, what would your, I guess, comments be?
We want to know about the trees.
If you went beyond the 50?
No, sorry, we stopped at the 50-foot buffer.
Okay, stop
Yeah.
at 50 foot. I think you still have to address all the other issues though, that have been raised
Thank you.
beyond the variance issue, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Again, because it doesn't look like when I was out there, I mean, obviously the Villa Lawaro pre-exists the historic preservation law, and so it's built right up to the aqueduct, but all the other houses around there are not, and most of them are screened really from the aqueduct. This house is not, and to some degree, the house that's under construction next door is not. So there is some growth there that's more so than from your applicants. And I think what you need to do is show how you're going to screen this off a bit.
Okay.
Any other comments?
We've been pretty tough about building into the Broadway, into the aqueduct buffer. I mean, so I think that sets a, hate to say a
Right.
bad precedent, but
Right, I think that's the problem that this board has had. I think we went through it with a couple other
A number of other
applications recently too.
They're trying to change the
Not,
buffer?
not approving, or requiring them to step back and meet the requirements of the Broadway buffer. I mean, it was established for a reason. The old Croton Aqueduct is now a trailway, it's an historic, it's on the National Register of Historic Places, and it's a park. And the idea is to maintain some green space there and some buffering between the buildings that are near the old Croton Aqueduct. So that's what we want to do. All right?
Thank you.
Any other comments? Any comments from anybody in the audience? No? Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other items? No? Can I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.